Hello, hello. This is going to be our first episode of Emperor's Miniatures, and today we are going to be talking about kitbashing the Green Wing of a Dark Angel's army. I put the emphasis on army there because we're not just going to be talking about single miniatures, we're going to be talking about things that you can do on a wider scale to a wider range of miniatures, in this case specifically, the rank and file of the Dark Angels chapter. So, first of all, we're going to be talking about what we're kind of looking for, and then some examples. So, I have a few different kits laid out here. This is just a bit of a variety between regular, just fancy Marines, and then we have some Black Templar as well. Black Templar are great because just like Dark Angels, they share a very medieval feel. The difference between the two, and this is not going to come across that much in the miniatures, unfortunately, just because of the type of variety that the kits have and the variety that Games Workshop makes not being as great as it maybe we would like it to be. But the Black Templar, you can see with this Blade Guard, they're very Crusader-esque, they're very Teutonic, they're very early medieval. And so they're going to have similar embellishments to the Dark Angels, but the Dark Angels are a little bit more high medieval as opposed to that earlier medieval period. And so a lot more pointed arches to an extent. That's going to make things like certain types of reliquaries quite useful and things like that. So in any case, in what to look for, there will be things that are going to use things directly from the Dark Angels upgrade sprue, like this arm here. This is going to be a not that well painted, it was a while ago, but it is an infiltrator sort of thing. It has the Phobos armor, so it has those thinner legs and things, and then it has pieces directly from the Dark Angels upgrade sprue. The old upgrade sprue is not that great, but there is a new one which has a lot more hoods, which is going to give that eclectic sort of secretive look. Things like books are also going to be very helpful because it kind of implies that deeper lore and mystery behind the chapter. When it comes to higher levels of the Green Wing, of course, robes are super handy. So I have robes from Stern Guard kits, and then Blade Guard are also going to be really, really great for the Dark Angel theming. Unfortunately, these kits only have about 5 to 3 miniatures in them. Same thing with this one over here. So while they have great robes, they're not going to be that reliable. When we look at kits that have also robes, but more miniatures like this, some of those miniatures are split between scouts and the normal Marines. So that's also going to be a little bit difficult to work with. So instead, the focus of today's conversion is actually going to be from the Assault Intercessor sprue. So here we are with that. It gives a very nice aggressive pose while also having some extra bits of armor that imply a little bit more of that medieval elements. So let's go with that now into bits and what we're kind of looking for there. So getting out the bits box now, we have quite a number of things to look for. So medieval elements like shields are going to be really nice. Different bits of shields and armor that looks more medieval. An example of that from the armor side of things might be something like this. This is going to be a Blade Guard arm. And this arm has that really nice medieval shaped bit there. But Blade Guard only have so many arms in each kit, so it's only really going to get us so far, and so it's not as applicable for your whole army. Kits like Stern Guard veterans are going to have some nice older technology, like combi weapons, and the Dark Angels were given the Emperor's stores of arcane technology from the Dark Age of technology, which is going to nicely lend to theming. Another nice thing is that with sergeants, of course, we want to find some bolters maybe that are just being carried by one hand. Those can be found in a couple of kits. This is an infiltrator one, for example. It still works. I always advise make sure your armies look like how you want them to look, as opposed to just being strictly only parts from one kit. But those one-handed arms will allow us to add things like power weapons, and that can include swords, that can include chain swords, and it can also include things like power fists, but power fists are not going to be quite as emblematic of Dark Angels. So, moving on from there to some kits to look out for. We're going to be looking at accessories and a couple of other handy things. An example of a handy kit that you want to think about first off is the Vindictor kit. You can see that I've already cut off a lot of these, but Vindictor kits come with 12 shields in total. So even if you have a friend that plays Stormcast and they have one of these kits, they probably have some extra shields that you might be able to borrow from them. Or, yeah, that they might be able to give you. Then another nice thing is this lion on the pauldron there. The Primarch of the Dark Angels is Lionel Johnson. So those lion motifs are going to be really great. And then things like these blades on the spears, you can actually cut these off and then add them to a chainsword arm. So this is an arm that I cut off the sword of, and then we can take that and we can glue on a bit like this, and then we can make a really nice power sword that's a little bit different from other things out there that Games Workshop makes for Dark Angels, but still gives you a nice sword, and you actually don't have to dwell on that supply from the blade guard that you don't have that many of. So that's really handy stuff there. With those shields, of course, we're going to need to scrape off a lot of the Sigmar detailing, and so I have a scraped off shield here, and those are going to take some modification, like taking off that pin there, because they're push-fit models, the Vindictors, which means that you can get them very cheap on eBay. I believe I got mine for like 30 or 40 bucks. So that's really great. Another great thing to take a note is the Black Templar sprues. This is going to be from that kit I mentioned earlier with the Scouts, and it has some really great stuff. So it does have some chainswords. It has nice riveting in some of the arms, so it gives a nice medieval appeal. Nice, skulls and shield in the middle there, so very medieval-esque. Also, it has some nice pauldrons, like this one, that have that nice medieval rim, and we can always trim off that Templar sign there. Purity seals are really great. And, yeah, so just some great medieval detailing there. And you can always kitbash the scout-ish miniatures into actual scouts. That's nice. Capes are always super handy, especially for, Dark Angels are very eclectic and secretive, so we want some of those things that are kind of going to hide a little bit more of them. So the hoods in that new upgrade sprue, while not infinite, are nice, and then things like capes and cloaks are really great. You can find those in lots of Black Templar kits, and a good example of that is going to be Blade Guard. They have a really nice cloak that sweeps not only on the back, but also all the way around to the arm, so it shadows a lot more of the miniature. And then things like shields and things are also going to be quite nice. Usually most Marine kits are going to come with about 4 of those. And so when we look at Assault Intercessors, we have 2 there. And of course there's going to be 2 on the other sprue as well. Things like swords, power swords, stuff like that. Plasma weaponry, different types of arcane technology are going to be really great, because as I said earlier, that's where the Emperor put all of his stuff, gave it to the Dark Angels, and they have it in their vaults. So that is going to be most of what we're looking for there. Another nice thing to look for is reliquaries that have that nice arched look at the top. The Gothic designing is going to be very nice with Dark Angels, and so that's going to be a general use sort of thing that you can use across any type of miniatures, not just Assault Intercessors. That being the case, Assault Intercessors is going to be the main thing that we're going to be building off of today. So this is going to be my starting miniature right here, and we're going to move from there. Alright, so here we are again with some of those details brought out a little bit more. So, here's our original base figure as it was. Here is an example of that sword idea that I mentioned. So just regular Primaris arm, chainsword, add in a Vindictor spear tip. Not perfectly shaved off. It's not really what I was going for at the moment, but there we are. That's the proof of concept. Another great thing to add in is those purity seals and all that, so just keep that in mind for later. As I said, already got the shield. I found this arm. This is a arm for, I guess, a comm link or something that you can attach the shield to like so. So that's going to fit on nicely if you have a miniature that's only holding something with one hand. So say you want to do an Assault Intercessor, get an arm like that, add in that shield detail, and then you have a great Intercessor there that looks a little bit different from the original kit. If we're talking about something more like a standard Intercessor, I'm going to put that to the side. It looks something like this. This is one that I made a while ago. terribly painted. This is not a painting video, luckily. But things like those shield elements are going to be really nice. Mine, I just use green and red and black, because those are some of the pre-heresy color schemes for the Dark Angels. This would be a successor chapter of some sort. And then using those pointed reliquaries like this is going to be super nice to add a little bit more detail. In the same realm of detailing and little medieval bits, we can use stuff like this. This is going to be from the kit that has the plasma weaponry, and it has just a little bit of an extension down there to change up the shapes a bit. In the same vein, you can use stuff from infiltrators, like this piece of armor right there with a little indent. It just changes up the shape a little bit, adds some medieval elements. That's always very nice and welcome. Stuff like custom heads, such as this one right here, are going to be really nice. These I found off of eBay, not a Games Workshop kit, and it is not something that I'm talking about as like a wide-scale army thing, because you'd have to buy so many of them. And resin can sometimes get a little bit expensive. Of course, we can't always have great amounts of robes like this one, but this is an example where you can add some robes with this librarian. Again, not a painting video, I know it sucks. Anyway, so, other great things, gonna be, as I mentioned earlier, this lion bit there. I carved away some of that arm that was attached to it. And of course, you can just put this over any pauldron like so. It's not perfect right now, but that's about where that is at the moment. And then, as I said earlier, just things like purity seals. If you got them, custom heads. Here's an example of a blade guard arm. I actually did not add a pauldron because I thought it would be a little bit too bulky, and I wanted this guy to look a little bit more streamlined. So things to keep in mind with that. And that is mostly what I have to say about that. As another example of using those Vindictor spears to your example, this is a kitbash I was making of Geralt of Rivia from The Witcher. But I used one of those Vindictor spears, and I actually shaved off a lot of these little spiked detailing around there. You can tell this is the same thing that I cut the spear tip off of. But taking off those detailing is going to add some smoothness there, which gives you something to use as basically a handle if you really wanted there. So that's a nice use for that. Anyway, moving away from that, let's bring out some bolters. Those are going to be pretty ubiquitous. For any kit like the Intercessors or the Stern Guard, you're going to get lots of extra bolters and extra arms. I always advise putting the arms together on those so you don't lose track of it. But any combi weapons are also going to be really nice, because Dark Angels like combi weapons. With all the old technology, especially stuff like this with the plasma, is going to be really great. Of course, you can put this on any Intercessor, including the Assault variety. Forgive my camera. And we have still some of that extra armoring and such, but with a different bolter. And then, of course, I always, for Dark Angels, advise bits of armor with that fringe piece. It's going to add some more detail, some more medieval bits. Those were actually used to essentially go closer around the neck and head to prevent any strikes that hit the pauldron from hitting the head. So that's a bit of medieval reasoning and history of why those existed historically. So with that, I'm actually going to go ahead and build this as an Assault Intercessor. But, of course, as reviewed, the same principles with the extra medieval armoring will apply to any type of Dark Angel Marine. Specifically talking about tactics here, but of course those same principles will come to just about anything else. A great thing that I would like to try out with Dark Angels is going to be using the Mark III armor. The Mark III armor has a much more medieval appearance, especially with that helmet. It works very well for those. Other examples of nice helmets are going to be these two right here. I have this heavy guy with some nice detailing from the Templars, like I talked about earlier, and a medieval looking helmet there. And then this one is going to be a beaky helmet, and also, you know, kind of built as a captain sort of figure from the Stern Guard kit, so it's got some nice robes like the Dark Angels would like to. And holding that gun on its with the one hand, like I mentioned earlier. Nice fringe pieces to add some medieval detailing, some scrolls, and then the power sword is really great. This particular piece is also really nice with that winged motif. So I'm going to go ahead and build that guy as an Assault Intercessor, and we'll finish off the video. So here is the finished Assault Intercessor. I actually did not end up adding any pistols or anything to this just because of my own laziness. But I still did add that shield, the lion motif, and all of that. So great Assault Intercessor. Did not use up any of my power swords or any kits that I was going to use for other game pieces. So completely, did not come at the expense of other kits. So very conservative kitbash there. And yeah, so those are some general tips that you can apply to any Tacticus Dark Angels Marine. I hope you guys found this helpful and enjoyable. And I will see you guys in the next video. Please do put in the comments below what you think that should be. We're going to be looking at the rest of the Loyalist chapters. So we could just go down the list as the legions go, or we could do just random ones until we finish them all off. So put that in the comments, please. Like and subscribe to the channel. We're just starting this out, so I'd really like to see that. Alrighty then. I will see you guys in the future. Fare thee well.